What's up, guys? T-Rock1992 here. For this next video, and for my next video that I'm going to review, I am going to be reviewing my first movie of 2015. My first 2015 movie that I've watched this year. The first 2015 movie I've seen in theaters. And it was the comedy Get Hard. The movie Get Hard. I think it's important to say the movie Get Hard because this, just saying the actual name, might get the wrong perverted idea. It might send the wrong message or something like that. The title is ridiculous. It really is, but in a fun way. It really, it's a brilliant title for an R-rated comedy, which is what this movie is. It's an R-rated comedy. So, yeah, just say the movie Get Hard. So Get Hard, of course, stars Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart. They are the two main guys in the film. Alison Brie is in this film. Only for a little bit. Alison Brie, for those of you Community fans, the show on NBC, I believe it is, she's on that show. Craig T. Nelson is a guy who I've seen in a few films before. T.I., the rapper, is in this film. And those are pretty much the big people. So, what basically is the key to this film, what essentially is the plot, is that there's this investor, this Wall Street investor named James King, rich man, lives in a huge house, huge mansion, has it all. He's made partner in his investment firm. Unfortunately, though, he is arrested for embezzlement and securities fraud, and he is sentenced to 10 years in prison. He goes to a guy who's on the other end of the spectrum. This guy's a poor man. Kevin Hart's character, Darnell, is a poor man who he runs his own business. He runs a car washing business, but it's not exactly making bank. So he's on the other end of the spectrum. It's kind of like Get Hard meets The Prince and the Pauper. I mean, the old, I think the book was Charles Dickens or something like that, if I'm correct in assuming it was. But you kind of think, I thought Prince and the Pauper, because Will Ferrell's the prince, Kevin Hart is the pauper, the poor man, trying to make a living for his family. So, James King is in dire straits. He does not think he's going to survive in prison whatsoever. He asks Darnell to teach him how to be in prison, how to survive in prison. The only thing is, Darnell never went to prison before. James King was only assuming that Darnell was in prison because he's black. Kevin Hart's black. So the majority of the movie is about Kevin Hart's character, Darnell, trying to teach James King how to survive in prison. That's the big thing. And then the journey is to clear his name, because he clearly did not commit the securities and embezzlement fraud. He didn't do it. So that is pretty much the gist of the movie, the plot of the movie. Pretty easy to remember. It's a pretty easy plot, pretty simple plot, and something that's been done before, definitely. But this movie was friggin' hilarious. I loved this movie. It was so funny. Joke after joke. Most of the movie, save for a little bit of a period in the middle or 3/4 of the way in that wasn't extremely funny. Not a laugh. Most of the time, though, this movie was a laugh a minute. I went with a few of my friends to go see this movie, and they were laughing with me. I mean, it was like there weren't a ton of people in the theater when we went. This actually was the second weekend of release for Get Hard. But from what I heard from the audience, the little bit of the audience that was there was a lot of laughter for this movie. It was funny. And I'm even going to go out on a limb to say that Get Hard is now my new favorite Will Ferrell movie. I think it is the best movie he's done. This movie's so funny. It's a laugh a minute. If you're not a Will Ferrell, Kevin Hart fan, chances are you're going to think this is pretty much the same thing. And it is the same thing. Will Ferrell plays his usual grown man-child shtick, you know. He usually does it. He did it in Old School. He did it in Anchorman. He did it in a whole bunch of other movies he's been in. He's a spoiled, grown-up man-child. That's what he plays, usually. And he played it to perfection in this movie. He really did. Kevin Hart in this film was just as good as Will Ferrell. He was just as good. And before I saw this movie, I had thought, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Kevin Hart. I've seen a little bit of his stand-up before, and he's not extremely funny. He's okay. But this kind of changes my opinion about him. He was pretty funny in this movie, too. The chemistry between Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart is unbelievable. It really is. I mean, it's some of the best comedic chemistry I've seen, honestly. Now about some of the smaller parts in the movie. Alison Brie played the gold digger, the character, the former husband of the husband or girlfriend or whatever, the fiance of Will Ferrell's character, James King. Alison Brie, very much a gold digger type character. In the limited appearances she had, she appeared at the end of the film and she appeared at the beginning of the film, not in the middle. I thought she was okay, not the strongest character by any length, but she was okay. She did a decent job. T.I. was not too bad. You know, he's the other one to kind of pay attention to. He wasn't too bad. I actually saw that Jay Farrow from SNL was in this movie, but I actually didn't see him. I actually missed him in the movie. I didn't really see him. One guy I did miss, though, was a guy named Ron Funches. He's a stand-up comedian. He's a black stand-up comedian. And he's on this show called Undateable that's on NBC every Tuesday night. He was funny. This is not his character on... This character he played was not his character on Undateable. Not in the slightest. It was a much different character, but a good character. So, excuse me. So saying that, the film was funny. Pretty much all the way through. There were like maybe a few minutes or so where the laughs kind of stopped a little bit. Even in the beginning, too. When there weren't as many laughs, there were still laughs. There were still laughs to be had, definitely. I mean, a lot of memorable lines in this film. You know, a lot of memorable comedy acts in this film. All that kind of stuff. Like I said, Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart have amazing chemistry. They could be the next Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. They could be the next Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. They could be the next big comedy pairing. They could be the next comedy pairing to look at, definitely. And this movie for me is, you guessed it, a perfect 5 out of 5 stars. It is an awesome movie. I was laughing my head off at this film. It was so funny. And I think, honestly, this is Will Ferrell's best film that he's ever done. Even better than even better than Zoolander. And Zoolander I hold in high regard. His character Mugatu in Zoolander is hilarious. By the way, Zoolander 2 is coming. Mugatu is back. Will Ferrell is back as Mugatu. I am excited about that. So yeah, I think now in the comments below, I'd like to hear this, definitely. I'd like you to say, what is your favorite Will Ferrell movie? What's your favorite Kevin Hart movie? What is your favorite movie from these two guys? I'd love to hear your comments on the comment section below. And that is it for this video. D-Rock 1992 out.